Welcome everybody to another edition of Think with a Drink. This is the weekly webinar series brought to you by the ARIES Foundation for Financial Education. And this week's topic has us in the bar doing financial wellness and what the heck does it mean to you, or what the heck does it mean to anybody anyway? Next slide, please. Real quick about the ARIES Foundation for Financial Education. You can visit us at www.ariesfoundation.org. We're a nonprofit located here in Newton, Massachusetts, dedicated to the mission, trying to help everyone have a better relationship with their money, because whether you realize it or not, you are in a relationship with your money, and just like every other personal relationship that you might have, there are emotions and behaviors and triggers that cause us to act, well, a little irrationally sometimes when it comes to dealing with your finances. All Craig, myself, and the rest of the ARIES team try to do is help you take a little bit of that emotion out of your money. Next slide. This week we're doing on Think with a Drink. This is real quick. This is Dark Anchor. This is, they describe it as a dark, roasty, malty beverage. Certainly heavy, but light in taste and light in being able to drink, and will warm, as they say, the coldest of seas. Skål.
Skål.
Next slide, please. All right, so financial wellness and what does it mean? And I think, Craig, that the biggest part in all of this is the fact that nobody knows how to define financial wellness.
Yeah, well, I think the definition for financial wellness is a little bit different for everybody, right? It's a matter of, some people look at it as financial independence. Some people look at it as I can just pay my bills. So that is, trying to understand what your definition of wellness is.
Right, and so some of that for each individual is sort of getting a handle on it. And one of the things that Craig and I spend a lot of time, as far as ARIES is concerned and with individuals, is really trying to get a handle on where do you spend your money. So we don't really care, or we don't like to use the B word, in terms of budget, but you do have to get a handle and have to understand where do you spend your money, because that's fundamentally the driving point in all of this.
Right. I mean, all of our behavior is driven by, how we feel about money, including our spending habits. And, a lot of times people go, I keep a basic budget, but I don't track it.
Right.
Right. As long as there's money in my bank account, I know I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah, and for that financial wellness, that overview, like Craig had mentioned, for everybody it's different, but I think fundamentally, besides understanding how you spend or where you spend your money, is to understand your financial situation. What's your current, ledger, balance sheet, or whatever look like as an individual really is going to dictate where you are on the stress level as far as financial wellness is concerned.
Well, you're right. When you look at it, it is a balancing act, right? I mean, it's between, how much I have coming in and how much I have going out.
Right.
Right. And hopefully you have more coming in than you have going out. If the scale tips the other way, well, that's when the stressors start to happen.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And some of that is setting financial goals. Now, hopefully everybody in the audience that you've set some goals for yourself for 2022 and beyond. But what Craig and I like to do is to say, have you set some financial goals? Are there certain things that you're trying to achieve? Whether that's I'm trying to save for something, or I'm trying to pay off something, whatever it may be, have you set some goals for yourself?
Absolutely, and I think that's a really difficult thing for a lot of people to do, because first off, you have to deal with understanding how your spending habits. Right, because you can't save anything until you know where you're spending it.
Right.
Right, as you've said 1,000 times in all these other presentations we've done. And then once you get a handle on that, if you can keep a handle on that, then it's understanding, how do I want to spend my money?
Right.
Right, and we can get into a little bit of that. Right.
Yeah, and another part to financial wellness, besides is starting some things. That's what we talked about with the goal and sort of goal achievement. But one of those is building up or starting some kind of a savings account and some kind of what Craig and I refer to as emergency fund or rainy day fund, right?
Yeah, and we've talked about this in other segments where people get on the roller coaster ride of debt, right? Because they keep repeating the same missteps over and over, right? And so it's about creating, and a lot of times that's because they don't have an emergency reserve, especially coming out of COVID. A lot of people spent a lot of the savings that they did have.
Right.
And the average American household has about $400 in savings anyway.
Yeah.
So when you're living paycheck to paycheck, and then you've got some of what's going on in the economy right now, it's a stressor. And so where do we go when we don't have enough to fill in that gap? We go to our credit cards.
Right. But so one of those goals, or one of those things, as far as financial wellness is concerned, is to be thinking about how am I going to increase those savings? That should be the goal. That should be some standard in terms of how are you putting that in place? How are you making that happen? Because as Craig mentioned, the other side of that coin is debt, right? And if you have debt, how are you dealing with your debt? I mean, it's crippling, the student loan thing, and I know this has been in the news and keeps getting talked about, but student loan debt right now is somewhere around $1.5 trillion in total. And if you have debt of any kind, that can be that, as Craig just mentioned, that added stressor onto my spending, my household income, what I'm doing, how I'm doing it. So from a wellness standpoint, being able to get a handle on debt is a big part of that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the things that people don't look at is they pay their bills. And a lot of people are good about paying their bills. They pay them on time, especially today because you can automate a lot of that, through your bank or whatever. So you don't even have to think about some of that. However, what they don't automate, what they don't think about is themselves as a bill. They don't look at having to pay themselves.
Yeah.
Everybody else gets paid first, and if there's anything left, well, I guess I saved some money.
Yeah.
So.
And so, one of the things we really do, when wellness, and again, wellness is a definition that everybody, it's sort of a personal thing, but, savings, spending, and debt reduction sort of go hand in hand in all of this. One of the other aspects of it really is that looking to the future, right? So investing in your future or what you want to obtain or have in the future. And it could be something as simple as I'm trying to upgrade transportation or purchase a property, a new home type of thing. Maybe it's a child's education, or even farther down the line, I'm trying to save for retirement. Those are all things that are investing in the future, not necessarily on the day-to-day life.
Right, and I think that, like you started off originally with, what's the definition of financial wellness, and because it is so different for everybody. I mean, some people are living, like I said, on the edge, and for them it's a issue of knowing what's the difference between a need and a want, right? And I think that it's hard to know sometimes the difference between a need and a want, right? But it's that's when you look at your spending. Am I spending this because I need this, or am I spending this because I want this, right? And then there's the other people who may not be quite on the edge, but they're talking about what am I doing with my disposable income? Yeah. And maybe they're not tracking the disposable income, so they have no idea it's been disposed of. They know where it went, right? So even though they feel like they're making a good living, they have no savings. So once again, it all comes back down to getting in touch with what your spending habits are, what's driving those spending habits, and making sure the money you have is going and giving you what you want out of it.
Right, and that's a good point to it, because that's another aspect to financial wellness that we sort of see happening out there, and one of the things that we're real big believers in, which is investing in yourself, right? So if you now are somebody who's, and it doesn't matter, age is irrelevant in terms of that. It's really trying to think of things you can do, ways that you can be better at, all of the things that you do to help you sort of grow as an individual, whether that's education, whether that's, taking on a new hobby type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think, now we're going a little off track on the financial piece, but I think you're right. I think when you have new experiences, regardless of the age, right, it improves your health because it makes you think, it makes you change the way you do things, it changes your perspective. And actually, financial fitness is also a very good thing to say too, because when you have your finances under control, your stress level goes down. Your physical well-being gets better. So it's not just about, well, I'm going to handle this money, I'm going to put it to the side because I don't want to deal with it. It's hurting your own physical health when you don't have control of what's going on with your financial world.
It is a big stressor. And so one of the other things, that brings that stress into the equation, and that we talk a lot of times about, is projecting. No.
Protecting.
Protecting.
There we go.
Ding, ding.
Ding, ding.
Protection
Hit the bell.
strategies, right? So protecting yourself, protecting your family. This brings insurance into it. Now, most, if you're employed, probably have access to health insurance, but maybe there are some other aspects to that, whether that's disability coverage, life insurance, dental, other things that go along there. These are all ways to protect not only yourself, but your family, which also helps that feeling of, well, okay, I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, but you know what I found is, investing is fun. Protecting isn't so much fun, right?
Yeah.
And so
But it's why we have the drink.
yeah, well, that conversation usually is the last thing people want to talk about. I don't want to talk about life insurance. I only need that if I die, right?
Yes.
Right? I'm not ever going to be disabled, and even if I was, I can work with one leg and one eye and one ear. So why do I need disability insurance? While it's not the sexy fun part to talk about, once you have the protection components in place, then you can focus on the savings and the investing
Right.
and all the other things, because you want to get rid of the fall downs.
Yes.
Anything that's going to knock you off track unexpectedly.
Or topple over whatever plan or planning that you've done. Like Craig said, one of those things with debt and getting into that cycle of debt is the fact that, hey, I didn't have a place I could turn to, a bank or a savings account that I could turn to in my moment of crisis. Whether that was just that the fridge broke or that the car broke down or whatever the case may be. The same thing happens in life with the rest of this stuff, as Greg mentioned, whether it's someone passing or getting disabled or getting hurt in an accident or getting sick, you need those insurances to back it all up. The last thing we're going to say to you with financial wellness, just to take into is the whole piece and component of all of this, is leaning on a professional, turning to somebody for help, whether that be in financial, whether it be legal, whether it be tax. We at ARIES always recommend that everybody just search out and find a professional to help you. You know what you know and not necessarily what you don't know.
Right, like right now I'm looking for a golf pro because I know nothing about golf.
He doesn't. He can't play a game at all. So just so we're clear on that, he's not fibbing.
But I think like you made a really good point, right? If you're living on the edge, you need to take advantage of everything that's there. You need to turn over every shell,
Right.
every rock, and find, how do I get more out of what I have? If you're doing well, then it's about putting the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
It's about, can I make my dollars do more jobs? Can I be more efficient with what I'm doing so I can have less stress with putting money away?
Right, absolutely. Next slide. So one of the things we talk in the financial wellness idea is, how you relate to money, right? And just so you know, we break it down into personalities, right? So everybody has a money personality. Now, most people, you've got a segment or two or three of these personalities that you're dealing with. It's just one of them tends to be the dominant trait.
So we have multiple personalities?
Multiple personalities, multiple money personalities.
So we are the horde.
That's it. So the pack rat, right? So a pack rat is somebody who is constantly saving. And while, you've heard us and seen some of the stuff that we do, you'd know that, hey, that's a good thing. Why would we say anything bad about a pack rat? The problem with a pack rat is they won't spend. Even if it comes to the rainy day, they won't spend it. They're so focused on, I have to have the money put away, I have to have it saved, that they end up crimping and stifling their lifestyle, which again is not a healthy way to live.
Well, it's a fear of running out, not having enough. So if I spend it, I'm not going to have enough, and so I can't spend it.
Right, but it doesn't lead to a healthy way or a healthy relationship with money.
No.
The second one on there, the money hippie, I think that should be fairly easy to know. A money hippie is no real regard for money. Money itself is not I don't want to be bothered with it. You probably heard that with people like spouses. There'll be one versus the other. One will deal with all of the money and all the bills and everything, and the other one can't be bothered. Don't want to have anything to do with it. They tend to regulate it and say, no, it's there, or worse, the money comes in, the money goes out, and they don't track it.
So for the younger people in our audience, you're just assuming everybody knows what a hippie is.
Doesn't everybody know what a hippie is?
I don't know. I would think so, but
So-
yeah, like rolling with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's okay,
man, it's
right,
okay.
right, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so the spendthrift, a little bit different than the hippie, where the hippie is not necessarily somebody who's tracking or really following with any type of a spending limit or a spending budget. The spendthrift is just tossing money, right? Just loves to be the center of attention based on spending, give big gifts, has
They're buying the
word,
drinks.
buying drinks, buying dinners, doing all that stuff, which is wonderful and good to do if it's within your means and in your limit. I mean, that is one of the biggest things I think that we run into a lot, is people not living within their means, within their limits.
Well, absolutely, and everything in society tells them they just don't need to, right? They can have it right now. I don't have to wait. Why am I? I'm going to wait to get old. I'm going to enjoy myself today.
Yeah.
So,
The money hustler is just that, somebody who lives and everything to them is about what they make, what they earn, how much money that they have. They're always constantly looking to have more, make more, earn more, which isn't a bad thing, except for when it cuts out personal life, family life, everything else. And that's what we mean by balance in all of this. Like, it's great that you're focused on and trying to earn and be a provider, but when it takes away from family time and personal time and growth, now suddenly that becomes a detriment.
so the workaholic you're talking about.
Essentially, that's the idea of it.
Yeah, easily justified because they have to make more money because we need it.
Yeah, you got to have more. Got to keep
Absolutely.
making more. And I can't be at home. I can't be at the play. I can't be at the school event.
Right.
All of that. Just the excuses roll in there with a money hustler. A gambler is just that. Is somebody who gambles, and we mean both literally and figuratively. So gambling is gambling, but also when it comes to investing, this is somebody who's probably followed Matt Damon right over the edge with the, fortune favors the bold and, that whole thing with cryptocurrency and buying Bitcoin and all those type of things, NFTs, whatever, because they see the quick action that's there. Right. The day trading that's gone on in Robinhood has created a lot of these gamblers who that's how they see investing.
Well, everybody's looking for the tip. What's the big stock I should be throwing my money into because it's going to explode? Because I can get rich, overnight, and now tomorrow I'll be on a yacht.
Right.
Right. So.
The roller coaster is more about the emotions of dealing with money. So the idea of think of this as somebody who buys something and then 2 or 3 days later, you get buyer's remorse. That's sort of the swings that we're talking about with that. Like, oh, why did I do that? That was so dumb. Why did I buy that? I didn't need it. Shouldn't have done it. Now I've got all of this debt I've got to pay off.
Right.
That type of thing.
I thought I needed a pony, but now I have nowhere to put it.
I don't know how to care for a pony. What am I doing with a pony?
I should have just bought a burro.
Yes. Should have bought a Mustang instead. Then you would have had a real pony. And then the last one on that is a worrywart. And so the worrywart is somebody who, what's that adage, right? The sky is falling. Right?
Chicken Little?
Chicken Little. That's the whole thing. Like there's never enough. I'm going to, this, you might hear this, like usually the refrain we get is that I don't want to be the person who ends up having to eat cat food or dog food for, at the end of it, right? So I've got to, I can't spend things, but oh, the bills are crazy and everything is just all over the place.
Well, they're losing sleep over the finance.
Yes.
Right? And it's constantly on their mind. And there's where that stressor comes in again, with not having that control, that financial fitness. It just exasperates people who are worriers.
Yeah. And so the idea with the money personalities is sort of trying to figure out, and amongst everybody and anybody watching, where you sort of fall. Like I said, we have, as Craig made the reference to, we're multiple personalities, but
the horde.
Yeah. There's one dominant trait usually for everybody. There's one of these personalities that is really driving where you are, where you've been, and a lot of it comes to how we've been in the past.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's relationship to money is based on their emotion.
Yep.
Right, and somehow when you're younger, you learn traits. Either I watched my parents and how they dealt with money, or we were in a particular financial situation, whether it was poor or whether it was wealthy.
Right.
Right, and some people, like you said in the past, talking about money is a taboo.
Yeah.
People do not want to talk about it. How much do your parents earn? Most people don't know how much their parents earn.
Right.
How much does a car cost? How much does a house cost? How much retirement? Why am I talking about that? I'm 20 years old.
Yeah.
So I think, and then when you go out with your friends, do you openly sit there and talk about, well, I make this much and I got a raise last year? Or this is my credit report rating? No one talks about what their credit rating is, right? So I think it's about trying to allow people, and this is partly why we do what we do, to get educated about how money works.
Yeah.
Right, to get the right information and not be afraid to ask questions, because there's so many things out there right now, Tom, that you can't control.
Yeah.
Right?
No, and that becomes overwhelming in a lot of cases, and that's where a lot of the stress comes in, and that's why the idea here with financial wellness, which is really trying to understand your own situation, trying to get that under wraps, trying to figure it out, but this whole money personality thing goes hand in hand with it, because you can sort of see, as Craig said, and a lot of times we'll talk to people whose parents were, they were coming out of, their parents had dealt with the Great Depression, and so they're savers, they were scrimpers, they didn't really want to spend a lot of money. The kids are the opposite way. Because they were raised that way, now they're money hippies. They're blowing money all over the place because they don't care, because they're like, not going to live like my parents did.
Yep.
Or, as Craig said, they've learned the lesson and they are set up that way, and they're savers and scrimpers, and because that's how they were raised. So you have to look at a lot of times what you've been dealt with and how you're dealing with those things. It's a big part of dealing with your personality.
Right.
Next slide. So does any of this feel like you? So you can just click through them and we'll go through it as far as that. These are some of the things that you got to deal with, right? I'm so stressed, about my debt, right? I don't have a money management system, right? I don't know how to get ahead of the debt. That's what we talk about all the time with people, the cycle of debt, right? Yep. I'm trying to live within a budget. This is the biggest one. This is why we don't use the B word in terms of budget. Like I feel like it's
constraining. I'm in prison.
Yeah,
right.
I don't like.
I gotta
this
bust
budget
out of
thing.
this thing. Right.
I hate this budget thing, because I'm feeling like it's constraining me and I can't do the things I want to do. Right.
Plus, I'm not good with numbers anyway.
Well, that's another one. There's a big one that
Right.
we get, right? I don't know how to save, right? I have my own, everybody has, and this is a thing that we have, it's a personal thing with us, that everybody has a limiting belief system, right? That you're telling yourself, like Craig just said, I'm not good with numbers, or I can't do this, or that's, too much for me, or I can't deal with it.
We've always been poor, so we're always going to be poor.
Yeah, just your own limiting belief systems do that, right? So a lot of times that comes, like we said, from things that you've dealt with, from past experiences. Sometimes it's you've got somebody who's there who's not helping you, right? So you've got whether it's a spouse
You may be a drag on your income.
Yeah, or spending a lot more than you should, not living within your means. These are things that need to be identified, right? And so understanding how to take that information, understanding how to look inside, how to build the steps out, how to figure it out, that's a big part of what financial wellness is all about. At least for us, that's what we think it means for everybody, is trying to have that sort of better understanding, better relationship to your financial situation, to your financial circumstance, more than anything else.
Right. So every time you think about your money, you feel bad, you need to sit down and do a little assessment of, why do I feel bad when I think about my money? Is it because I don't have enough coming in? Because I have too much going out? Because I need to spend money to make myself feel better? What is this relationship you have with money that's making you feel bad about addressing it? That's when you have some of these personality traits that you've got to maybe try to change, if so want to get there.
Right. And that's really the biggest part of it, is trying to get a handle on that, trying to understand it, and trying to figure out what's the best way to put yourself in a position so that you can take control. Because really that's what it's all about. Every individual, that for us, what financial wellness means, every individual trying to take control of their own situation.
Well, it's like we said earlier, you can't, it's so much out of control right now, but you do have some controllables. You can control how much money you make by how hard you work.
Right.
Right? You can control how much you spend, right? Especially, your wants versus your needs. Yeah. So these are all things that you can get under control.
Yeah, absolutely. So next slide. And so what we do at ARIES is we try to help everybody have a clear vision, a clear understanding of where they're trying to get to, what that looks like, that road ahead.
Especially if they've been drinking.
Yeah, no, we don't want you drinking, none of that, right? Don't be behind the wheel, sit on the couch, and then you're fine. You can drive from your couch, that's okay.
That's your protection component.
Yes, that's dealing with it. But the idea is trying to be able to sort of navigate your way along the path here and take control so that you feel empowered, you feel like I'm in control of my financial situation. Next slide. We do that with what we call a roadmap to financial awesomeness. There's going to be a yes in that. You can click the slide, the yes will pop up, but we're recording this, so no worry on that.
So you can always email us.
Right, you can email us, but this is a visual. It's a one page that really gives you, hey, where's everything that I have, so that you can see it and then be able to design the road to go from there.
Right, let's cut through the fog, right?
Yes. Next slide. All right, so this is us and our contact information. That's Craig and I in our more formal attire. We don't have the jerseys on today. And yes, for the audience, those are TB12 jerseys. They're custom to us though, so they don't say Brady on the back. But he's the greatest of all time, so we were wearing them even though he vacated and ran away to Tampa. And then for, 38 days or something, 40 days, we were sort of left in limbo when he retired, and we didn't know what we should do with our jerseys. And he unretired. He's back for one more season, so we're going to keep him and probably end up getting, number 10s for next year and once he does retire, but we've kept him at that point.
Peyton Manning said he wants his retirement gifts back.
Yes, he wants his gifts back. Absolutely. Next slide. Should be just, listen, if you ever have any questions, right? As Craig said, you ever want to go through anything, you can always reach out to us. It is www.ariesfoundation.org, or you can email us. It's info@ariesfoundation.org. We're happy to answer any questions, happy to help you try to design it out, figure it out, or get a handle on your situation. And I think with that, we'll say thanks and good evening.